This is Focus with Jack Caudill.
And good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome to this month's edition of Focus. This month we're talking about Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity. Three guests with us to talk about that. Scott Engman is the Executive Director of Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity. Jared McIntaffer is the Project Director of the Black Hills Knowledge Network. And Val Big Eagle, she is in line for a new Habitat home. A little information before we get going. Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity has been around since 1990. Over that period, they've constructed and remodeled over 150 affordable homes around the region, providing permanent housing to more than 300 people. They have a pair of restore locations, one in Rapid City, one up in Spearfish, and they're just getting started with their 3,500 campaign. Scott, we're going to start with you. For people that may not be familiar with Habitat for Humanity, what exactly is Habitat for Humanity and what is it that you guys do?
Well, it's great to be here, Jack. Thank you for the time. And you know, Habitat is an organization that's really in the business of building homes, but it's also in the business of building people up and taking one family at a time and trying to find that right housing solution that fits for them. We serve everywhere from Belle Fourche down to Edgemont, out to Pine Ridge, and we're building new homes, we're remodeling homes. And then, as you said, we also run the restore businesses, which are a key social enterprise that provide important funding for the Habitat mission throughout the Black Hills region. I've been in the position for 12 years serving with Habitat and have just really been surprised at the amount of new homeowners or potential homeowners that have come to us and said, we want to be homeowners. In fact, we have a list now of over 250 people that have expressed interest in that. And we're really wrestling with how can we address this problem in our community more meaningfully.
So who are the people that you're able to help? Who are the people that are coming to you and what can you do for them?
The families that apply to Habitat and the people that apply to Habitat are basically people who are earning between 30 and 70% of the area median income. Many are in the service sector economy, are hardworking, perhaps have had some credit problems, have usually had some issues with savings and difficulty getting ahead financially. But they're people who want that leg up in life to become homeowners. And they're willing to do the work and wait. Sometimes they have to wait a long time to become Habitat homeowners. And they're people that want that opportunity to buy a home. And we make that happen for them. It's very time consuming and expensive. But everyone deserves a decent place to live.
And Jared McIntaffer is the project director with the Black Hills Knowledge Network. Jared, you presided over a pretty substantial survey about housing needs, housing availability, costs here. That wasn't for Habitat, but pretty relevant to what Habitat is doing. What did you guys find as far as housing in this area and needs for housing in this area?
Yeah, so this was a multi-month project funded by the John T. Vakurovich Foundation. And what we really found was a tremendous imbalance, right, between the needs of our population and the amount of housing and the type of housing that's out there. So what's really relevant to the work that Habitat's doing and to the 3,500 campaign is we looked at, on the homeownership side, you know, what's the number of people out there with incomes, in this case, let's say less than $35,000 a year. And we looked at, well, what's out there that's affordable for them right now? So we used data from the Census Bureau, we used property tax data, and we sort of tried to estimate, how many homes are there that would be affordable for those people? And what we came up with is that there was a gap, right? There was a shortfall of around 3,500 homes in order to get the cost of the housing to match up with the incomes of people in the area. And so that's what this campaign that Habitat's running is, to really bring awareness to that issue, that there is that shortfall out there, and that what we need to be doing is expanding the amount of housing out there that's affordable in that price range.
So who are the people that are falling into that gap in the middle here?
Well, what's surprising really is that it runs across the gamut. People might think, well, it's just young people, maybe it's just old retirees. It's not. What we found is that it's across the board. We're looking at people fresh out of college, people fresh out of high school, trying to make ends meet, trying to raise a family. And what we've got in this part of the state, where we have a lot of people working in tourism and restaurants and hospitality, even with two incomes, it can be a stretch to afford housing. So this isn't any one type of household, any one type of person. It's across the board.
You look at sociology in an area. How important is it to find places for those people that are in that gap zone?
Well, it's absolutely critical. So when we look at your average household, you need to have housing, you need to have food, you need to have all of these sort of goods and services, right? And the more money that you have to spend on housing is less money for all of that other stuff. So when you look at, you've got that roof over your head, but if you're paying 50, 60% of your income for that housing, then you can't save for retirement, you can't save for your children's education, you can't even save for sort of emergencies. The car needs fixing, the water heater goes out in the house. Like, you just don't have enough room in the budget for some of these other things. So getting the cost of housing down is really what frees up everyone for all of these other things that, emergencies that may come up, or those purchases that we just want to have.
Now, Val Big Eagle, you were in line for a move into a new Habitat house up on Dilger here in Rapid City. Scott mentioned this process can take a long time. You said you started in 2016?
Yes. So we started the Habitat program in December of 2016. It's been a long road of volunteer hours, of saving money, of volunteering, working on other people's houses, and also the home ownership classes, the savings classes, all the financial. It's teaching us how to be financially responsible so that we can become first-time homeowners successfully. We're looking at maybe June of 2019 moving into our new home, so we're really excited. It's myself, my husband, and our 3 young children, so we're very excited.
What's that going to mean to you when you finally get a house that's your own? And then not only you got 3 kids looking to get this start as well.
Wow, it's going to be much more affordable for us. Right now we're living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's costing us $750 a month, plus everything else. But looking at what possibly it may look like for our Habitat home, it's going to range around $650. That's going to free up money for us to pay child care, for food, everything else. So, I'm just so excited. We're going to be able to paint our children's rooms, hopefully have a puppy. You never realize how those may seem like small things, but for us and for my kids, that's huge.
Now, Scott, what does that mean to you guys? Is that really a part of this, that all of a sudden they've got a place that's theirs? They can have a dog. They can do what they want with it. They can...
Yeah, Jack, I think the thing that we're talking about again is building into people's lives. We focus so much on the structure of the home, and that home is needed, but really the home is a gateway to possibility for people. It's a place where people can relax and can begin being family in a way where they can start talking about not just how we're going to get by this month or in the next 6 months, but where are we going to be in 10 years? Where do we want our family to move, and how do we want to position our family for our kids' future? Those kind of things that a lot of middle-class families take for granted isn't happening at that economic level below the 70% of area median income, because people are worried about rents going up, people are worried about properties being sold, and not being able to have that sense of permanence. And so there's a psychological aspect to this and an emotional aspect to it that I think is very powerful, and is something that, for me personally, keeps me so excited about Habitat, is seeing that my time, my energy with this organization is really more about the future of Rapid City and the Black Hills than it is even about today. Investing in each of these families means they're going to become stronger, and they're going to become better contributors into the broader community as well.
Jared, one question again back to your survey. The results that you found here, are those unique to this area, or is this an issue that's across the country, or is it a little different here?
This is definitely an issue that affects all parts of the country. It's a little more acute here in Rapid City. One thing, about 1.5 years ago, we did a project for the Rapid City Economic Development Partnership, and we benchmarked Rapid City against 19, 20 different other communities to look at how expensive are we? Are we more expensive than other places? Are we less expensive? Are we about average? And we did find Rapid City was one of the more unaffordable markets that we looked at in terms of comparing rental rates to incomes. So it's a little more acute here in Rapid City, but it is a nationwide problem.
All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our look at Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity on this month's edition of Focus. And good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity. Jared McIntaffer is the project director of Black Hills Knowledge Network, also on the board of Habitat for Humanity. Jared, this obviously helps the homeowners that are moving in, but what does it do for the neighborhood? What does it do for the community as a whole, having these kind of developments?
Well, that's what's really special about the Habitat model of promoting, affordable housing through home ownership. When you get people invested in their neighborhoods, in their communities through home ownership, it really opens the door to growing that neighborhood, to growing that community, improving it through further investment, and really just getting people to commit and being part of that community that we have in Rapid City. So that's what's really special about the Habitat model and what Habitat's doing to tackle this sort of shortage of affordable housing. Really getting people to buy into the system and really invest in themselves and their homes.
Now, Scott Engman is the executive director of Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity, talking about neighborhoods. The Garfield project is a big thing that you guys have undertaken. Yeah. What do you have going on up there?
Garfield is a fantastic example of neighborhood engagement where Habitat went ahead and purchased a whole city block that had the Garfield Elementary School on it. And we subdivided it, and the school has been repurposed and transformed into market rate loft apartments, which serve a certain segment of our community. And the homes that we're putting in will serve another 8 families with home ownership. So there's a kind of a balance of the rental piece and the ownership piece. But there's also a bit of a demographic mix there as well. We're seeing younger couples and singles moving into the school, into the apartments. And then we're seeing more of the families moving into the homes. And this has been a 3-year project for us, the largest redevelopment project we've undertaken. And I've just really enjoyed working with the City of Rapid City and the Planning Department and the Community Development Department as well, and putting some of those dollars that have come into our city for community development into infrastructure and improvement of a neighborhood where there really hadn't been much building for about 40 years. And now we'll have by June 20 new families into that community, which is just a few blocks north of the Civic Center and real close to downtown.
Now, Val Big Eagle is set to move into one of those homes up there in the Garfield development, along with your family. What's it mean to be a part of a neighborhood like that?
I mean, we all went through the experience together. So we all went through the volunteer hours together, the classes together, whether it was at the same time or different times. But we're all in this experience together, and we know that if we need to borrow something to maintain our home, if something breaks down, we've all been through that home maintenance class together, so we can definitely borrow from our neighbors. And it's like safe feeling, I think, knowing that we're all in it together, we're all there. So yeah, I'm really excited. We're really excited about it.
Now, I said earlier you started this in 2016. What has that process been like along the way? What have you had to do along the way to get to this point?
So to get to this point, it started off by having to take financial classes, whether it was the financial freedom through Life Inc., which is provided by Love Inc., one of the partnerships with Habitat for Humanity, and then also Bridges to Freedom, also credit consumer counseling classes, home maintenance classes, and then volunteer hours, having to volunteer on other people's houses. And that has been a great experience, being part of the Women's Build, that type of thing. And then also having to save up for closing costs and having to learn how to budget our finances correctly so that we can afford our home. So looking at our budgets, our monthly budgets, and making sure that we know how to handle our finances correctly. And so really building that foundation to be a successful homeowner.
All right. Scott, there's a lot involved in that. You're not just handing someone a house. Are there misconceptions to what people believe Habitat is then compared to what it actually is?
Yeah, one of the misconceptions I hear is spot on with what you're saying, Jack, that people think Habitat homeowners are given a home, and in reality no one's given a home. They actually work on their own home and they actually pay for their home. So the key difference is it's an affordable mortgage, and so we make that mortgage payment less than 30% of their gross monthly income. And Jared can probably speak more to what that means in the economics of a family. But what we have seen is that if families can keep that house payment or that house expense below 30%, it gives them, an adequate amount of money for the eventualities of, cars breaking down, health issues, missed hours at work, so that they actually have a balanced, stable home situation. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is that people think we're giving them away, but we're actually selling them. The other thing is, I kind of laugh, but people think that Jimmy Carter is the president of Habitat, or he started Habitat. And in reality, he didn't. He does one volunteer project each year, which he still does in his 90s, and that's just, had a big splash. And so people identify him with Habitat.
Now, Jared, he was talking about the economics of all this. How important is that to keep that balance of income and housing expense in check and in where it should be?
Well, I think that there's a reason that it's a rule of thumb, right? Typically you talk to, whether it be the banker when you're trying to get a loan, or when you're talking to anyone else, this idea that you shouldn't spend more than, 30% of your income on housing, it's important, and it's a good rule, because you need to have that flexibility with the rest of the budget, right? Food expenses, just clothing, school supplies, retirement savings, which we should all be doing. Some of us aren't as good about it as others maybe, but all of those things are important, and we need to be able to have the flexibility in a household budget in order to afford those things. And so when the household expenses crowd out everything else, that's when you get into trouble. You can't afford to keep maintenance on the home up to date because you don't have the budget for it. You can't afford school supplies when that comes around because you don't have the budget for it. So having that flexibility, which is a great thing that Habitat does to make sure that those homeowners have the ability to be successful.
Val, do you feel like through all of this training that you are in good shape, that you're confident that you're set to take this on when the time has come?
Yes, I feel like I'm so ready, and I'm just looking forward to it. I tell Scott all the time, right now I'm paying up to 60% towards my housing expenses. And looking at what Habitat's going to be able to afford me to do is I'm going to only have to pay 30% towards my housing expenses with insurance and everything like that, and property taxes. And I'm just looking forward to it. That's going to free up a lot of money for me and my family. I'm in the working class, and we're the working poor, and we try our best. But just with the housing market in Rapid City, it just makes it difficult for us. So Habitat really affords us that opportunity to be a homeowner in Rapid City.
All right, we have to take another break. We'll continue our look at Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity when we continue with this month's edition of Focus. And good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity. Scott Engman is the Executive Director of Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity. Scott, you got the little house here as part of the 3,500 campaign. What is that? What is it all about? What are you trying to do?
Right, so this is a tiny little house, and it's actually got a picture of Val, Big Eagle, and their family on here. And it talks a little bit about some of the facts that Jared and his team have pulled through the housing gap analysis. And there's a little chance to put your information on the bottom of it. But what we're asking members of our community to do is to go ahead and build this, fill it out, and bring it down to the Civic Center at the Rush box office on November 9th between 2 and 6 p.m. What we're trying to do is assemble 3,500 of these into a big glass container and kind of visualize what 3,500 homes really looks like, because that's the challenge that we have on our hands as a community, is how do we help get 3,500 more affordable homes built so that we can help more families like the Big Eagles.
How much of that is fundraising? I mean, this obviously is not an inexpensive program to run, building houses.
The challenge is ever before us, Jack, and we're looking at home prices between $135,000 to $175,000, even in the Habitat program. So housing has gotten tremendously expensive. So we're really looking at, there's like 3 P's I always go back to. It's the people that you need, the people who can actually do the work, the people who can come alongside us and help serve in different ways. You're also talking about property, so you need lots that are affordable, land that actually fits within the budget for constructing affordable homes. And then the third piece is you need provisions. You need donors who come along, whether it's individuals, the faith community, the corporate community, the foundations, who say, you know what, we're gonna look at housing from a different perspective. Yes, it's much more expensive than many of their programs, but this is an investment in the future of our community. And we have to think about it a little bit differently than, the program that just meets today's needs. This is a need that will be meeting the family's need for the next 30, 40 years. So it's kind of, we're hoping that we can start to look at that differently and hopefully raise more support toward the need.
And Jared McIntaffer is the project director of Black Hills Knowledge Network, also an economist. As he mentioned, housing prices continue to rise. Does that mean that group that could potentially get left out, is that group growing these days?
Yeah, that's the real danger. We've seen, in our area, the housing costs are rising, but the wages aren't rising as fast, not nearly as fast. So it's a constant struggle to maintain affordable housing. Now, we've had a lot of rental units built in Rapid City over the past few years. It's taken some of the pressure off that market. So rentals are getting a little bit more affordable. But on the homeowner side, it's still tough, and it's getting worse. And so that's what makes a project like the 3,500 homes important, to get the word out and really get people to understand the level of need that we need to do, or investment that we need to sort of bend that cost curve.
Naval Big Eagle is in line for a new Habitat home. As you talk about housing prices continue to rise, as you guys were trying to make it outside of the Habitat. Would you be able to get into this without the Habitat program?
I do not believe so, not at all. We couldn't afford a regular mortgage loan, and so I don't think it would have been in the cards for us, unfortunately. So Habitat really does provide us with the opportunity to be a homeowner. It's one of those things you wish for. You'd think it won't happen, but Habitat made that possible for us, and now we're going to have a place to call home. And so we're really fortunate and excited for that.
Now, Scott, her home is in Rapid City, but you guys also, you're not strictly a Rapid City organization. You said you're also expanding onto the Pine Ridge Reservation now.
Yep. And our work on Pine Ridge has been primarily focused on what we call critical repairs, home preservation. So we're taking homes that are existing but have critical needs on them, and we're sending our volunteer and our professional crews out to go ahead and fix those roofs, install those windows, fix the doors, fix the plumbing. And really it's almost like a triage, an emergency triage, where we're taking the most critical situations and addressing those on one particular home, moving down to the next home that has that really critical issue in order to save the homes. The last thing we want is for people to, if they have a home, we don't want that home to be deteriorated to the point where they can't safely live in it anymore because of black mold and these kinds of things. So we try to get ahead of those problems and serve those families, whether they're here in Rapid or out in Pine Ridge. And this year we've done, I believe, 4 projects in Pine Ridge, and it's very time consuming getting our teams moved out there, and communication is a little bit harder, but boy, the families are so grateful, and the need is just off the charts. So we feel like we're just kind of scratching at the surface on that.
We are about running out of time. If somebody's watching this and says, hey, that's something I need, how do they get started towards their own Habitat home?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to go to our website, blackhillshabitat.org, stop by our office at 610 East Omaha, and if nothing else, go onto our website, download one of these little houses, get it filled out, and take a picture of yourself, hashtag 3,500 homes, get it posted to social media, get the word out that way. And in those small ways, you can be a huge supporter of Habitat.
All right, in about 10 seconds, where do you see this all going here 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
10 years from now, I hope that we make a significant dent in these 3,500 homes. It's going to take our city working closer with Habitat. It's going to take the private construction world, and it's going to take the federal government to continue to support housing as well.
I got to cut you off.
All
So,
right.
Scott Engman, Jared McIntaffer, Val Big Eagle, thanks for joining us. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you again the first Sunday night of next month for Focus.